I never imagined at 60 I could feel stronger again until these 3 teas changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The phone call that shattered my world came in the early morning, the sun barely a whisper on the horizon. My heart sank as I listened, frozen, the words cutting through me like ice. Cancer. Stage 4. I felt my chest tighten, the air getting thin. I wasn't ready for this. Not now. Not ever. I had dedicated my life to my family. My husband, Tom, and my 2 kids, Clara and Jake, meant everything to me. Through sleepless nights, school projects, little reminders of love, each heartbeat tethered us closer. Yet, here I was, crumbling under the weight of those words. The silence of the house felt heavy, impossibly loud. I could barely hear my own thoughts over the rushing tide of fear. After the diagnosis, life turned into a blur. I found myself lost in a fog of hospital visits, drain tubes, and helpless conversations. Friends offered their support, their sympathy painted in a soft brush, but I felt trapped. The world moved on outside while I was left behind, lingering in the shadows. I found comfort only in small, fleeting moments, like the scent of Clara's lilac-scented soap or the warmth of Tom's unwavering embrace that always felt like home. Yet, I struggled to see a path forward. Then, one rainy afternoon, everything flipped upside down. I stumbled upon a dusty old book in the corner of my attic, forgotten. The spine cracked open like a treasure chest, revealing ancient secrets about mystical teas that promised extraordinary healing. The pages whispered stories of people who found strength in the most unexpected ways. I inhaled the musty scent, a haze of nostalgia mingling with something new. 3 unique recipes stood out. One was bright golden, charged with turmeric, warm and inviting, bright like sunshine. I can still remember the burst of spices as I brewed it, each sip igniting a spark inside me. The second, a deep, rich blue made with butterfly pea flowers. It felt like magic, swirling in the cup, transforming in hues as I watched, a dance of wonder. And the third, an intense red hibiscus. Sour and sweet, it hit my tongue like a symphony of flavors, loud and brimming with potential. I started brewing these teas every day. Each sip felt like taking control, reclaiming pieces of myself that I thought were lost. I felt stronger, defiant against the darkness that loomed. As the flavors filled me, a light flickered within, igniting a strange, enticing energy I hadn't felt in years. Could it be real? Could these simple ingredients change everything? I dove headlong into this new world, researching, exploring, tasting. My heart raced every time I wondered what miraculous discovery lay on the horizon. But there was still a cloud hanging over my heart. Was it just a distraction? Or could this really be my turning point? Just when I thought I was regaining my footing, Tom came into the kitchen one evening, his expression eerily serious. He sat down across from me, dark clouds shadowing his usually bright eyes. He took a deep breath, his voice quavering. "There is something I need to tell you, something I should have mentioned before." My heart raced, the tea cooling forgotten in my hand. What could it possibly be? The answer hung just outside my reach, a looming figure in the twilight. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air in the kitchen thickened, weighted by Tom's words left unspooled on the table between us. His eyes darkened, troubled waters swirling beneath a calm surface that had long instilled confidence in our family. I could almost hear the clock ticking, time echoing loudly with every heartbeat in my ears. "What is it?" I managed, my voice trembling slightly, betraying a hollowness I couldn't quite mask. Tom took a moment, searching for the right words, but they felt delayed, hesitant. I could read the lines of worry etched into his brow, each crease a reminder of how much had changed since the diagnosis had roared into our lives. "It's about the kids," he began, finally. "I wanted to protect you from this, but Clara, she has been keeping something from us." My heart sank a little lower. The very mention of our daughter felt like a knife, twisting in the fertile earth of my worry. Clara was my vibrant sunbeam, the girl who found beauty in the mundane, a heart so open that it could embrace the weight of the world. What do you mean? I pressed, the dread coiling in my stomach tightening its grip. She has been struggling. She has been talking to a therapist, Tom confessed, his voice breaking slightly. She didn't want us to worry, but she has been feeling overwhelmed, with school and all of this. His hand swept towards the mess that had become our home, flaring like the chaotic heart of our reality. I felt a rush of emotions, swirling and crashing within me, fierce waves that threatened to drag me under. Why didn't she tell us? I breathed, disbelief floating on a thick veil of guilt. What could have made her think she needed to hide this? The anger I felt, a sharp, hot pang, was combated by a searing understanding. Her world felt tremendous enough without me weighing her down further with my own battles. I don't know, Tom said softly. But she needs us right now. We can't lose her not to this, not to the gravity of everything, not while we're fighting our own wars. He pulled his chair closer, reaching for my hand, but my fingers slipped out of his grasp. I stared out of the kitchen window blankly, feeling utterly helpless. I wanted to be present for Clara, wanted to be the rock she so dearly needed, but how could I when I felt like I was crumbling? The past few weeks of finding strength through the tease had been a secret triumph for me, a flicker of defiance against my own fragility. Yet here was another battle looming on the horizon, threatening to consume me whole. The night deepened, shadows growing longer as the dim light cast an ethereal glow on Tom's worried face. I was caught in a storm of new fears that swallowed the hope I had started to cultivate. As if sensing my thoughts, a soft voice broke through the sorrowful silence. Mom? Clara stood framed in the doorway, her presence like a gentle whisper amidst the chaos. She looked small and vulnerable, a stark contrast to the girl who usually radiated confidence. My heart clenched. Hey, sweetheart, I managed, forcing the words out around the tightness in my chest. Come sit with us. Slowly, she walked forward, her footsteps soft and careful, like a bird approaching water. Just as she settled into the seat beside me, the faintest tremble passed through her, a sob caught in her throat. All my instinct told me was to reach out, to wrap her in my arms and hold her close. I wanted to lift the weight she carried, to shield her from the world's cruelties, and yet all I felt was the visceral fear of my own hopelessness. It's okay, I whispered, we're all in this together. And I hoped by saying it, I could convince myself of its truth. But the moment we shared was interrupted by the phone ringing, its shrill tone cutting through the fragile stillness and startling us both. I exchanged a worried glance with Tom, but before I could rise and answer, Clara's small voice trembled. It's okay, Mom. I can do this. There was a weightiness to her words, a determination that belied the anxiety shadowing her features. Tom nodded encouragingly, but I could see anxiety creeping back onto Clara's face. I wanted to protect her, to take all her fears away, but I felt paralyzed in this minefield of emotion. Honey, if you I started, but she shook her head firmly. No more hiding, Mom. If you can face this, I can face what's going on with me. I closed my eyes, feeling a painful tightness in my chest transform into an unexpected swell of pride. This small gesture of strength stirred something inside me, a flicker of light battling against the encroaching darkness. Could this fragile moment be the start of something new for both of us? As I opened my eyes, the phone rang on, relentless. With Clara seeking my reassurance, and Tom looking on, it hit me maybe the tease had done more than ignite a fire within me. They had sparked a longing to connect, to fight for my family through every trial, no matter how weighty. But there was still so much left unsaid. The phone ringing again snapped me back, this time feeling more ominous. I picked it up, catching my breath as an unknown voice spoke on the other end. Is this Mrs. Thompson? I have some important news regarding your treatment. My heart thundered in my chest as the voice continued, oblivious to the depth of the storm brewing inside me. I felt an uneasy warning tingle over my skin. There was no turning back now, a new reality was about to unfurl. The weight of the voice on the other end clouded my mind, each word slipping through the cracks in my resolve like sand in an hourglass. Your treatment, it's been revised based on the latest evaluations. I felt the world tilt, time grinding to a halt as I struggled to concentrate on the words, my heart racing with a mix of fear and anticipation. Behind me, I sensed Clara's unwavering gaze, and Thomas' quiet, supportive presence echoed through the shadows. The kitchen, once a sanctuary filled with laughter and light, felt like an eerie precipice, and I fought the urge to step back. "What do you mean?" I stammered, grasping for control over my runaway thoughts. My fingers trembled as they held tightly to the receiver, as if it alone could tether me to this moment. "The treatment you've received has shown promising results in other patients. We recommend a new regimen that may significantly improve your prognosis and help with your overall well-being." I heard the caution in his voice, an undercurrent of hope tainted by the weight of uncertainty. I let out a harsh breath, a startled laugh caught between disbelief and tentative joy. "Are you saying there's a new chance for me?" "Yes, but it will require a commitment. The new plan is more intensive, and there are risks," the voice cautioned, shifting the tangible glimmer of hope into a delicate negotiation with despair. The thought of deeper commitment, a deeper hole of exhaustion without the certainty of reward, grimaced at me from the abyss. I wanted to shout, to say yes unequivocally. The desire to grasp at that thin thread of hope was almost unbearable. Yet I glanced at Clara, whose small frame appeared weaker than before, and it pulled me back. "Can I think about it?" I managed, my voice trembling, hesitant like the gnawing fear settling in my gut. "Of course. Just take your time," he said, his tone kind, yet it felt distant, like a lifeline thrown into a stormy sea. I hung up, the enormity of what I'd just heard crashing over me. The room felt stifling, the air saturated with unspoken fears and wishes. Thomas' hand encircled my back, warm and grounding, while Clara watched me with eyes brimming with curiosity and anxiety, a mosaic of her own struggles reflecting in mine. "What was that about?" she asked, her voice small, almost fragile amidst the rising tension. I hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the whirlwind of emotions raging inside me. "It's about my treatment," I said softly, gauging her reaction as I fought to maintain steadiness in my voice. "There's a possibility of new options." Clara's expression morphed instantly, awareness sparking an unspoken question in her gaze. Was this the news we had all been waiting for, or another storm cloud hovering over our heads? "Is that good news?" she asked carefully, her voice barely a whisper beneath the weight of expectation. I think it could be," I replied, feeling the substance of my own uncertainty. "But it won't be easy." As the vulnerability of our collective silence enveloped us, I was struck by the realization that Clara had been listening even when we thought she was unaware. She must have felt the tension threaded through our conversations, the unshakable remnants of fear hovering in our everyday interactions. "Mom, whatever it is, I'm here." "You can talk to me," Clara said firmly, lifting her chin slightly in that defiant way I'd seen before, the embodiment of her strength, courage emanating from her small frame. It was then that I recognized that this moment of honesty wasn't just mine to bear. It had a voice. Hers. Tom pulled out a chair, taking a seat across from us, his eyes reflecting a silent plea for solidarity. "This affects all of us," he added, his voice steady yet tender, weaving through the fabric of our shared uncertainty. "And we'll face whatever comes next together, as a family. That's what matters." The sense of unity was a balm on my frayed nerves, but another wave of turmoil surged through me, the guilt of not being the mom Clara needed, not being the rock she could depend on. I swallowed the bitterness, clenching my fists beneath the table. "What if the treatment, what if I can't do it?" I voiced, caught in the margins of my internal battle. "That's not an option," Tom said fiercely, his eyes locked on mine with unwavering support. "You'll find a way, just like you always have. And we will be right beside you, all the way." His confidence ignited something in me, a spark of determination flickering back to life. But I glanced back at my daughter, and those words felt heavier when placed on her fragile shoulders. "Mom, you can't give up," Clara whispered once more, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I need you to fight. Could you do that for me?" The room conspired around those words, wrapping itself around the swirling emotions surging within me. Clara's plea felt like a delicate thread, something precious that could either bind us together or unravel completely. "Okay," I whispered, my throat tightening as I glanced between Clara and Tom, "I will." But as I nodded in agreement, feeling a fusion of hope and fear, another thought crept into my mind. What if my fight was destined to tear us apart instead of bringing us together? My phone buzzed suddenly on the table, shaking me from my thoughts. I picked it up to see a message flash across the screen. I need to talk. It's about Clara. The ground beneath me trembled as I read the words, and in that moment, the mixture of personal battles and blooming hope surged into a storm I could no longer ignore. The revelation that had suddenly gripped my heart felt akin to stepping onto uneven ground. My connection with Clara was stronger than I had anticipated, and yet I sensed a fracture in our family as carefully woven fabric. "Who is it?" Tom asked softly, his voice barely above a murmur as I stared, frozen, at the screen. "I don't know," I admitted, my heart racing. "But it feels urgent, and I don't like it." Clara's brow furrowed, concern taking over her features, and Tom edged closer, uncertainty brewing between us like an impending tempest. The storm within was far from over as the other shoe hovered above us, a confrontation, a judgment, or perhaps a revelation that could change everything. I took a breath, steadying myself against the flood of anxiety swirling inside me. "It feels wrong, this urgency. What could they possibly want to discuss that's about you, Clara?" Tom reached for my hand, squeezing it gently as if to reassure both of us. "Let us not jump to conclusions. It could be anything," he said, his voice smooth and calming against the pounding of my heart, but I could see Clara trying to hide her apprehension behind a brave face, the way her fingers twisted nervously in her lap. I felt her anxiety pierce through the cracks I was trying to tighten. "Mom, you can't respond to people immediately. Just think about it for a second," she urged, her voice wavering, almost pleading. I nodded, though my unease persisted. The message sat heavily on my conscience like an unwanted weight. I didn't want to project my fears onto Clara, nor did I want the dark shadows of my uncertainty to cloud her perception of the world. "Okay," I finally said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'll wait a moment." But the thought of whatever secrets the message contained gnawed at me like an incessant itch I couldn't scratch. I stole glances at Clara, who, at 13, was standing on the precipice of adolescence, clinging to childhood like it might slip from her grasp at any second. I felt the sharp pangs of motherhood, a fierce wish to protect her, to shield her from any storm that might approach. As I reached out to grasp my phone again, Thomas' phone buzzed simultaneously on the table, its tone cutting through the tension that suffocated our little kitchen. He looked down, a frown creasing his forehead. "It's my sister," he said softly, casting an apologetic glance at me. "I need to take this." As he stepped out of the room, my heart constricted. Any moment felt heavy, tinged with the thrill of unknowing paths that lay ahead. I was alone now with Clara, just the two of us caught in uncertainty. The kitchen that had once been witness to sweet chaos now felt like a sealed chamber. "Mom, what did the doctor say?" Clara asked, her eyes searching mine as if seeking solace in the depth of my thoughts. "Nothing I didn't tell you, Clara." "Just options," I replied, pushing back my swirling feelings. But even as I spoke, I noticed the strain in her expression, the question loomed larger, and the precise nature of my reality became more complicated. "I can feel it, Clara said, her voice ticked with determination. "You trying to be brave, Mom? But it's okay to ask for help too. You don't have to hide things from me." My resolve wavered, and I wanted to gather her in my arms, tell her that, in many ways, I felt lost. But instead, I dropped my gaze, staring at the cool countertop. "It's just there is so much at stake," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. "And I don't want to make things worse for you." "But," she interjected gently, "what if it's something good? What if it leads to more time with you? More memories?" Her words hung in the air with an ethereal hope, and I could feel the sincerity radiating from her small frame. I swallowed hard, the knot in my throat constricting tighter. "Clara, I can't promise anything. This fight can sometimes feel like it's just about me, but it's not. It's about you too." In that moment, a flicker of understanding passed between us, an unspoken acknowledgement of the vulnerability we both shared. It was in the silence that enveloped us, thick like fog, before another buzz broke through, this time from my phone, startling both of us. With trembling hands, I turned the screen towards me. The name that flashed was familiar yet unsettling. "It's from your school," I murmured, the realization weighing down on me like a stone. "They're asking to meet." "Why? What could they possibly want?" Clara's voice rose in pitch, agitation dancing behind her eyes. "I don't know," I admitted, feeling panic rise within me. "But I need to answer. I need to know what they want." Before Clara could respond, I hit reply, fingers shaking with every tap as I composed my response. But what lay beneath every word was a sinking feeling, a foreboding weight that settled in the pit of my stomach. As every second stretched out, I thought of the future, the fragile threads of hope tangled up as they wove a tapestry of uncertainty between Clara and me. With my breath caught in my chest, I clicked send. The silence in the room felt electric, each heartbeat loud against the growing unease. The realization tugged at me, hurling me deeper into an uncharted path where nothing was guaranteed. Time ebbed and flowed around us, and despite Clara's brave face, I couldn't shake the feeling that something vital was shifting in our lives. As suddenly, Tom re-entered the kitchen, a look of surprise etched across his features. "I think we might need to talk about that treatment option after all," he said, his voice urgent yet strangely buoyant. "What do you mean?" I asked, my pulse racing. A new storm brewed on the horizon, and dread curled in my stomach, a revelation I sensed would change everything. He took a seat at the table, casting a meaningful glance between us. "I know what might be waiting for you, and it changes things." But even as he spoke, the anticipation crackled, sharp and raw, like static in the air. The moment stretched, uncertainty colliding with hope, ready to pivot us all into unknown territories, a willingness to embrace what lay ahead, but also to wrestle with the shadows of doubt that lingered close behind. The walls of the kitchen suddenly seemed to close in around us, heavy with the gravity of Tom's words. Clara's hand slipped from mine, and I sensed her weighing the words, her youthful heart straining against a tide of complexity. The faint sound of a passing car outside seemed mocking, a reminder of the world continuing to turn while we remained suspended in this moment of uncertainty. "Changes what, Tom?" My voice trembled, urgency lacing every syllable as I regarded him with a mixture of hope and trepidation. I sensed the truth clinging to the air, it was ripe with the scent of possibility, yet the shadows of doubt loomed large. Tom hesitated, the weight of his revelation pressing against his shoulders. "I've been speaking to a doctor from the city. He specializes in emerging treatments that might offer you more options than you thought," he said finally. Clara's eyes lit up with an ember of hope, her belief flickering like a candle caught in the wind. "Is it better? Can you get better?" Her voice contained a desperation that made my heart ache. I could see the threads of hope weaving together in her mind, trying to form something tangible. "Clara," I hesitated, wanting to shield her from the unpredictability that lay ahead even as I couldn't deny the flicker of excitement that ignited within me. "Please, Mom," she pressed. "We have to think of it. If there is something out there, even if it's just a little more time, we should take it." "Yes," I found myself agreeing, even as doubts swirled in my mind. "But it's not that simple. We don't know what the risks are." "Sometimes the biggest risks lead to the biggest rewards," Tom interjected, his voice steadying like an anchor amidst our swirling emotions. "I've seen the success stories. There's a chance. You deserve all the possibilities life can offer." As I considered his words, I felt a rush of warmth flooding my chest, a sobering reminder of the resilience that had always dwelled within me, even under the burden of illness. Thoughts of Clara and her boundless spirit lit a fire in my heart. I locked eyes with her, seeing reflected in her gaze both her fear and her unwavering belief in the power of healing. "Okay, let us explore it," I murmured, allowing the tentative hope to bloom. The prospect of another chance grounded me, ignited the fighter deep within me. "But we'll need to research it first. We'll talk to this doctor, and I'll want to understand everything." "Great. When can we do it?" Clara's enthusiasm was palpable, her face brightening like a sun breaking through heavy clouds. I couldn't help but smile at her. "Let us take it one step at a time. First, we can ask for an appointment. And you can go with me, right?" "Of course." Clara squealed, clapping her hands together. Thomas' face softened, pride twinkling in his eyes as he observed the bond between us. In the depths of fear, courage was starting to rise like a phoenix from the ashes. Perhaps, even in this turbulence, we could carve out a new path. While the moment held a delicate balance of hope and apprehension, I couldn't shake the nagging thread of anxiety weaving through my mind. The hesitations, the what-ifs, they felt like shadows lingering just beyond the door of possibility. As I stood to pour myself a glass of water, my phone buzzed again, this time with an alert. I glanced down at the screen, my heart sinking as I recognized the source, a familiar name from the clinic, an administrative assistant whose tone was often rushed and clipped, the very tone that had once delivered news I never wanted to hear. "Mom? Is it the school?" Clara's voice pulled me from my thoughts, but I couldn't tear my eyes from the screen. "Not just yet," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. But my heart raced, anticipation and dread tangling in my chest like a wary dance. Tom stepped closer, concern furrowing his brow. "What is it?" "I just need to check." My fingers hesitated as I opened the message. I scanned the words, and as I did, clarity pierced through my confusion. The message wasn't just a routine follow-up, it was an urgent invitation to a meeting. About Clara, an evaluation that somehow tethered my daughter's success to the uncertainty swirling around my health. I closed my eyes for a brief moment, bracing for the implication of this new reality. Clara's future seemed to hang delicately in the balance, threads intertwining with my own. "They want us to talk about options, educational resources for your future, Clara." The air went thick with tension. "What do they mean, Mom?" Her voice cut through the quiet like a whisper swallowed whole by the dark. "I don't know," I admitted, opening my eyes to find Clara staring at me, wide-eyed and vulnerable. I could feel my heart hammering, echoing the chaos of my thoughts. Was this a sign of consequences to the choices I made? A reflection of the fears we could not escape even while pursuing hope? As I stood there, the realization crashed against me. It felt like a storm was brewing, and within it lay the fate of not just my own journey, but Clara's. However uncertain the future might be, it was clear that we had to navigate this together. "Let us talk about it after dinner," I suggested, feeling the weight of understanding stirring in the depths of our bond. "Okay," she replied, her trust in me unwavering, yet unspoken worry swimming in her eyes, and in the space between us, as time held its breath, I understood how deep the roots of our love lay even as the path ahead remained shrouded in a swirling mist of questions and uncharted territories. But we could take them together, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough to lend hope to the fears. The evening settled into a soft hush as we shared dinner, the clink of forks and plates mingling with the silence that danced in the air between Clara and me. It was a strange sound, almost mournful in its quietness, as if we were both acutely aware of the shadows lurking in the corners of our lives. I tried to focus on the taste of the warm soup, but every spoonful felt heavy, weighed down with the gravity of the impending conversation. "Mom, what do you think we should tell them at the meeting?" Clara broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. The question hung in the air, a taut string waiting to snap. I looked up into her earnest face, framed by the golden glow of the kitchen light. She had a maturity that belied her age, and in that moment, I wished so desperately that I could shoulder her worries, take them and wrap them in the folds of my love and shield her from the weight of uncertainty. "Let us just be honest," I replied, though even I could feel my heart trembling at the prospect. "We need to share everything, even if it feels scary." Her brow furrowed as she nodded slightly, pushing her hair behind her ears, a classic nervous habit. "What if they don't think I'm good enough? Or they think you can't, hey?" I reached across the table, placing my hand over hers. "They need to know who you are, how amazing you are. And they need to see how much you care about your future." I leaned in, feeling the warmth of her trust radiating between us. "You're so much more than a number or a grade." Her lips curled into a small smile, albeit hesitant. "I just want you to be okay," she said, and in her voice, there was a pinched sadness, a thread of worry that wrapped around my heart like barbed wire. "I know, sweetheart. And I'm trying," I assured her, but the truth was that I was grappling with my own fears, my own doubts. The meeting wasn't just about academic options, it felt inherently tethered to the fragility of my health. Would they really look at Clara's potential, or would they see the uncertainty we lived with like a dark cloud hanging over us? After dinner, we moved to the couch, the warm embrace of the cushions offering a cocoon against the uncertainties that loomed ahead. Tom joined us, settling into the space while Clara drummed her fingers nervously on her lap. I could see in her eyes the strong desire to bridge the gap between our worries, to align the spirals of our realities so they made sense. "Do you think we should prepare for the meeting?" Tom asked, leaning forward, concern etched across his face. "Prepare how?" Clara asked, her voice laced with curiosity and anxiety. "Maybe we could make notes," I suggested, feeling that the act of organizing our thoughts could bring some clarity. We could think of questions to ask them, and share things we've been working on together, things you're passionate about. Clara's face lit up at that. Like my art project? And the science fair idea? The hopeful glimmer in her eyes sparked something inside me, illuminating the darkness that threatened to settle again. Yes. I encouraged, and had that brief moment where I saw her spirit rise, her essence lifting us both. Those are huge parts of you. We'll show them the real Clara. Just as a warmth started to bloom in my heart, a sharp knock at the door sliced through the moment, sending an electric jolt through us. Clara exchanged a wide-eyed glance with me, her earlier optimism replaced by curiosity peppered with fear. "I'll get it," Tom said, rising to his feet. There was something palpable in the air, an unseen tension that hummed like an old radio buzzing quietly at the edge of consciousness. My stomach twisted as I wondered who could be at the door so late. Moments later, Tom returned, his expression caught between confusion and concern. "It's Mrs. Reynolds from next door," he announced, allowing her to step into view. She was holding a green basket filled with homemade cookies and assorted treats, a kind smile on her face that clashed harshly with the seriousness of the evening's tone. "Just wanted to check on you all," her voice lilted. The warmth from her presence felt like sunshine peeking through a storm. "I thought you might like a little something sweet." "Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds," I said, touched by the unexpected kindness. There was a comforting interruption in that moment, a reminder of community, of connection. As she moved to hand Clara a cookie, I watched the flicker of surprise transform into delight on my daughter's face, her tension ebbing slightly. "You're such a good baker," Clara exclaimed, her smile the brightest I'd seen all evening. Mrs. Reynolds chuckled softly, her eyes twinkling. "Thank you, dear. I just wanted to share a bit of love and sweetness, figured you could use it." With that simple act, I felt some of the weight lift. It reminded us that kindness existed, even amidst our struggles. It was a small glimpse of hope, the little gestures that intertwined lives and bolstered spirits. As the night progressed, the shadows didn't fully recede, but I felt more equipped to face what lay ahead. After Mrs. Reynolds left, Clara and I sat together, sharing cookies and laughter, refilling the air with lighter moments that helped anchor us in the now. But just as the laughter began to fill the room, my phone buzzed again, breaking the fragile peace. My heart raced as I glanced at the screen. This time, the email's subject line read urgent, health update needed. In that instant, my breath hitched, and the cookies in my hand fell to my lap, forgotten. Clara looked up, concern flickering on her face once more. The weight of uncertainty surged back, pressing against my chest like a stone. I stared at the screen, a storm of dread swirling through me. Clara reached for my hand, sensing the emotional tide that had surged with the notification. "Mom? What does it say?" she asked, the vulnerability in her voice echoing my own fear. I swallowed hard, knowing that whatever lay behind that door would dictate not just my path, but also Clara's. And for the second time that night, our future felt perilously close to teetering on a fragile edge. The dim light of the living room cast long shadows, and as silence settled back over us, every tick of the clock on the wall felt like thunder in my ears. Clara gave my hand a gentle squeeze, her eyes reflecting a mixture of hope and trepidation. I wanted so desperately to protect her, to shield her from the weight of what was racing through my mind, yet this burden, this prodding question of my health, was far too great to dismiss. "I just need a moment, okay?" I finally managed, my voice trembling slightly. Clara nodded but didn't release her grip, her fingers warm against my skin. The email glared at me from the phone screen, the cursor blinking, taunting. I had come to dread these types of notifications, harbingers of my reality, which felt like they had seeped into every crevice of our lives. With each passing day, the struggle for normalcy intertwined with the looming specter of uncertainty, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to untangle one from the other. "I'll be right back," I said as I slid my hand from Clara's, the moment feeling heavy and loaded with unspoken words. I could sense her watchful gaze following me into the kitchen, where I leaned against the counter, gripping the edge until the cool surface seemed to anchor me. The phone vibrated anew and I fought the urge to look again, but I couldn't resist. The brief preview of the email read, "Due to recent tests, we require urgent follow-up." My thoughts spiraled. What did that mean? Urgent was never a good sign. Hadn't I been feeling stronger lately? Or was that just a trick of the mind, a futile clinging to blurry memories of when days felt more vibrant? I pressed my fingers to my temples, willing myself to think of something else, but my heart thudded erratically, drowning out any possibility of clarity. Just then, I heard Clara shuffle behind me. "Mom, are you okay?" The tremor in her voice sliced through the fog of my thoughts like a beam of sunlight piercing an overcast sky. I took a breath and turned, forcing a smile that felt painfully stretched, but somehow still magical in its intent. "Of course, honey. Just taking a moment." I reached out and tucked a stray hair behind her ear, finding comfort in her youthful presence. The warmth of her spirit fought back against the cold creeping into my heart. "How about we talk some more about your art project? I loved those sketches you made." I watched her eyes light up again, and it was always remarkable how easily her enthusiasm could overshadow my distress. "Really? You think they're good enough?" "Absolutely," I encouraged, my heart swelling with pride as she began to describe her vision in vivid detail, her voice rising in excitement. "And you know what? Maybe we can even think of a theme for the science fair together. Something that combines your art with science? Can we?" "Oh, Mom, that would be amazing." Just like that, the conversation shifted, and for a brief moment, I forgot about the email, the dreadful implications of my health, the meetings, the uncertainty. It felt as though we were both artists working on a canvas, each stroke melding into the other, and the room filled with the vibrant colors of imagination and laughter. But as Clara's ideas flowed like a river, her voice rising and dipping with enthusiastic crescendos, I couldn't ignore the weight in my chest. My phone buzzed again, a low murmur beckoning me back to the harsh reality awaiting me. I hesitated, fingers twitching over the screen, heart clenching with the decision to engage once more. "Mom?" Clara's voice was quiet, slicing through my reverie. "You're not still worried about the email, are you?" "Just thinking about how we can make your projects the best they can be," I countered, more to convince myself than her. "I believe in you," she said with that fierce determination only a child could muster. "And I believe in me too, you know. We can get through this together." The sincerity in her voice struck a chord deep within me, a chord I didn't know still existed. I smiled, but it was bittersweet. If only I could truly believe that. As we sat back on the couch, enveloped in a world of dreams and aspirations, the phone buzzed yet again. This time it vibrated forcefully, a stark reminder that reality was an unyielding force. My gaze flicked to the screen, and with a tremulous breath, I opened the email. The words flooded in, each one like a bell tolling in the silence. "We have limited time to discuss test outcomes. Please call us as soon as possible." My heart plummeted, and I felt the room tilt as though I were on a precipice. Clara peered at me, sensing the shift in my demeanor. "Mom?" she asked, reaching out a hand, but I could hardly form words. Just then, the doorbell rang again, insistent, slicing through the tension hanging thick in the air. Tom, who had also been caught in the fray of our emotional exchange, moved to the door once more, his brow furrowing with confusion. "I'll get it," he said, though the way he spoke was laced with apprehension, as if he too anticipated the unknown. But just as he opened the door, I felt the familiar weight of anxiety settle back in my stomach. Whatever was on the other side could change everything, and in that moment, as Clara's eyes connected with mine, I realized that some battles don't just affect you, they ripple through the very essence of those you love. The door swung open, and the jolt in my heart threatened to fracture the thin veneer of hope, leaving me teetering on the brink of uncertainty once more. The door creaked open and, as if in slow motion, my breath caught in my throat. A figure stood there, partially obscured by the fading light of the evening. My heart raced as I took in the familiar silhouette, the lopsided grin, the tousled hair that had been my constant in brighter days. It was Clara's father, Dave, standing before us with a hesitant air that felt foreign. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice cautious yet vulnerable. "What are you doing here?" I managed to choke out, a whirlwind of emotions crashing over me: relief, anger, confusion. I didn't know if I was welcome, but Clara, I heard about what's been going on. I just wanted to check on you both. His words wrapped around us like an uneasy blanket, the air thickening with unspoken grievances. At the sound of his name, Clara leaped from the couch, her eyes wide. "Dad!" She flung herself into his arms, and they shared a moment that felt like a tapestry woven from memories both joyous and painful. For a heartbeat, I watched them, my heart straining as shockwaves of nostalgia swept over me. I hadn't fully processed how sorely I missed that connection, the absence of which had left an aching void since he distanced himself these past few months. "What's going on?" Clara asked, looking between us, her youthful curiosity untainted by our past. "Oh, just adult stuff, buddy. You don't have to worry about it," I replied absent-mindedly, still grappling with the weight of his unexpected visit. "Can't I stay and help?" "We were just planning my projects," Clara pressed eagerly, her eyes flitting between us like a pendulum. The innocence in her expression grounded me at that moment, forcing me to consider the fragile balance between our hurt and her need for connection. "I'd love to hear all about it," Dave said, taking a few steps further inside. "Just like the old days?" His smile didn't quite reach his eyes, a subtle reminder of the distance between us yet still inviting. The room felt too small as we stumbled through conversation, surface-level details woven into awkward pleasantries. A part of me was torn between resentment and gratitude for his sudden presence. It felt too fragile to bear. Yet beneath it all, a flicker of hope was kindled with the realization that perhaps I wouldn't have to carry this burden alone. Then, as if sensing the tension, Clara cleared her throat. "Can we brainstorm ideas for a new project together? What if we combine your engineering skills, Dad, with my art?" Her enthusiasm was a bomb, urging the conversation into friendlier territory. I observed how Dave's face softened as he thought through her suggestion. "That sounds amazing. We could create a model of a sustainable city, maybe draw inspiration from all the parks around here." The nostalgia wafted between us like the aroma of freshly baked bread. My mind flicked back to our past, days when we were a cohesive team crafting futures from our creativity, aspirations bursting at the seams like fireworks. And yet, swirling amongst those fond memories was the specter of why we had fallen apart and why it had been so long since he last crossed our threshold. As we delved deeper into Clara's vision, I leaned against the back of the couch, digging my fingernails into the fabric, desperate to hold on to this moment where healing felt possible. I could see Clara's eyes lighting up with ideas, her joy infectious enough to bridge the gaps that years of silence had created, but just as I began to savor the camaraderie, a sharp pang shot through me. The looming email, the urgent follow-up, had reminded me that happiness was always intertwined with anxiety in my world. It would only take one wrong word, one errant thought, for this fragile connection to shatter abruptly. The phone buzzed beside me, the sound like an ominous thunderclap. I hesitated, the urgency of the email pressing down on me like an iron weight. I had to decide whether to step back into the shadows of uncertainty or resist the urge to pull them into my turmoil. Clara's hopeful energy seemed too precious to taint with the specter of my health. "Hey, I'll be right back," I said, forcing a bright smile that felt like brittle glass. Without waiting for a response, I slipped into the kitchen. "Where are you going?" Clara's voice followed, concern lacing her words. "Just getting a drink. It's been a long day," I called back, gripping the countertop tightly, waiting for the familiar need to crack like thin ice beneath the weight of reality. But as I caught a glimpse of myself in the reflection of the microwave, eyes edged in worry and lips trembling uncertainly, I realized I couldn't let my fear dictate how we moved forward. I wouldn't shatter the fragile narrative we were crafting at that moment. But how? Just then, Dave appeared in the doorway, his eyes probing, searching for the truth in my facade. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I said, perhaps too quickly. But deep down, doubt flickered as I returned to the living room, determined to cling to the light. Yet as I crossed the threshold, the email still loomed at the edge of my mind. I had to face it eventually, but could I carry the hope of this moment with me, or would the truth I was avoiding tear everything apart? And as I stepped back into the space we were filling with dreams, Clara's laughter rang out like music, blissfully unaware of the storm swirling just beneath the surface. I inhaled deeply, ready to embrace that laughter, even for just a moment, but the moment I turned, my phone buzzed again, this time less a notification and more a warning shot. Without checking, I suddenly knew it was something significant. My stomach sank. What if it's news about my health? Without realizing it, I said it out loud, and as Clara turned to me, wide-eyed and hopeful, I felt the earthquake beneath my facade begin to tremble. And I understood, in that fleeting heartbeat of connection, that I was either on the brink of restoration or at the precipice of disaster. I turned toward Clara, trying to mask the dread simmering within me. Her eyes, bright and innocent, held an unwavering trust, and I momentarily felt suffocated by the weight of a truth I wasn't ready to unveil. "It's nothing, really," I heard myself say, yet the hollowness of my statement hung in the air, exposing the fragility of our tentative reunion. "Are you sure?" Clara's brows knitted together in concern, her unwavering gaze searching for cracks in my bravado. "Sometimes when I feel anxious, talking about it helps." There was an earnestness in her tone, a desire to help that made my heart pinch painfully. With a sigh, I leaned against the wall, tension vibrating through me. What I wanted to say was that it wasn't just my health I was grappling with, it was the profound fear of losing what little connection we had forged anew. But how do you explain that to a child who needed to believe in hope? The battle between wanting to shield her and needing to be honest left me caught in limbo. "Let us focus on the project," Dave interjected, sensing the change in the atmosphere. His tone was the same gentle authority I recalled from our brightest days. "Clara, how about you show me your sketches while we wait for..." He hesitated. "For whatever is buzzing away over there?" She clapped her hands, floating on the excitement of shared creativity and innate trust. "Okay. I have so many ideas." As she bounded to her room, pulling Dave along, I took a moment to breathe. The scratchy tension in my throat softened, just for an instant, and I allowed myself to lean into the comfort of nostalgia. Could this reconciliation be a seal of promise for our futures? But the soothing notion was ripped from my grasp as the phone buzzed again. I swallowed hard, a wave of uncertainty crashing over me. My fingers hesitated to seize it, but curiosity knotted me until I finally picked it up. With eyes tightly shut, I summoned the will to look. It was an appointment reminder with my neurologist, and the urgency I had attempted to dismiss crashed back like crashing waves against the shore. I allowed bitter irony to creep into my thoughts. The healing I danced toward felt, at that moment, distant and alien. "Hey, I'm going to check on Clara," I called out, but the kitchen felt like a trap, the walls closing in as I discarded the phone onto the counter and followed the echo of their laughter. As I stepped into Clara's room, the cozy chaos enveloped me: crayon drawings, paint-splattered canvases, and imagination spilling from every corner. The sight of my daughter's vibrant world melted away some of the dread. She sat cross-legged on the floor, lined papers sprawling before her, and Dave leaned over, a smile playing on his lips as he admired her creations. "Look at this one, Dad!" Clara exclaimed, gesturing at a kaleidoscope of colors. "It's a dream garden with all the flowers I want to plant when spring comes." "That's incredible," Dave said, his excitement genuine, the distance between them shrinking. The warmth radiating from their interaction soothed, yet it twisted the knot in my stomach tighter. I hovered in the doorway, torn between joy at the sight and anxiety for what loomed ahead. I wanted to say something meaningful, to contribute. "You know, Clara, every garden needs a strong foundation," I finally said, my voice shaking slightly, "and I think your imagination is just that." Her smile beamed at me, it felt like a beacon anchoring my heart. "I want you to help me build it, too." "Absolutely," I replied, the sincerity carrying me through the moment. But then Dave's eyes met mine, the unspoken apologies flickering between us. "It's good to see you, you know," he said quietly. For the first time in what felt like eons, there was a thread of truth woven into his words, a confession unsaid that tugged at my very core. "Yeah," I replied, uncharacteristically vulnerable. "You too." Clara clapped her hands again, bringing us back to the now. "Okay. I need help with the layout." As she guided her father in the transitions from colors to shapes, I sank to my knees beside her, letting the laughter wash over me, but the recognition of unspoken fears kept edging closer. Dave's presence, while a potential bomb, also unnerved me. The multitude of what-ifs flooded my mind. What if this fragile piece was brittle enough to shatter again? What if I fell apart in front of them? Without warning, my phone buzzed again, this time with an unsaved number. An urge to ignore it swept through me, but the trembling branches of my anxiety forced my hands to act. Clara's drawing session paused as I glanced at the screen, my heart racing in tandem with my breath. A tiny sliver of dread coiled around my chest. My finger hovered above the accept button, and the world stilled for a beat. "Mom?" Clara's voice pulled me back, the confusion in her tone a reminder of the reality that awaited me. Are you okay? I turned slowly, glancing at her eager face and then at Dave, who observed patiently, an unsteady bridge between comfort and chaos. My decision teetered on the precipice as I held the phone like a ticking time bomb. And in that charged moment, the flickering light of hope danced perilously close to being extinguished. I could press accept and uncover whatever awaited on the other side, or I could shatter the delicate piece we'd just begun to rebuild. The stakes had risen, and the weight of consequence pressed heavily against my chest. Would I be brave enough to confront the truth, or would I let fear dictate my choices yet again? I took a deep breath, the warm air mingling with the encroaching chill of doubt. Clara's small hands gripped the corners of her artwork, the vivacity of her imagination shining through the colors she wielded like magic. Just before I reached the button, the grounding voice of my daughter anchored me in place. "Mom, I need you here with me. I want us to dream together." Those words tugged at something deep within my heart, the enormity of all that hung in the air melding with her innocence. I looked up from my phone to meet her gaze, and in that moment, I understood that I didn't just have a choice to make for myself. I had a decision that reverberated through this family, this fragile, burgeoning bond that had just begun to heal. This wasn't about just me anymore, it was about us. "Okay," I said softly, laying the phone down on the floor beside me. "Let us keep dreaming." Clara's eyes sparkled with the thrill of diving deeper into creativity, and I felt the soft, shimmering weight of her pulses against my heart. Dave joined us on the floor, a small smile lingering on his lips. As we began to structure her dream garden, each bloom of creativity felt like a phoenix rising, reclaiming the air and igniting laughter that danced through our darkened corners. Days turned into weeks, each filled with laughter intertwined with the burden of my health. I learned to call upon hope teas brewing in the kitchen, shimmering splashes of color painted across canvases, moments of victory shared with Clara. With each passing day, the uncertainty lingered close, but it was eclipsed by warmth, connection, and the small joys we cultivated like flowers in a garden. But there was something deeper brewing, a connection that intertwined Dave back into our lives. As he began to show up more often, my heart hesitated at the prospect. I found comfort in his presence, but pieces of my past tugged at me, echoing an unfinished narrative that haunted the recesses of my mind. Clara bridged the gap with her unwavering spirit, leading us like a thread woven through our shared history. Then came the day, a notification from the clinic, each word cloaked in urgency. I stood at the threshold of uncertainty, ready to step into that unknown space, but this time, it was not just about me. It was about what I had learned through struggle, the choices we make ripple across the fabric of our lives. On the day of my appointment, Clara wrapped something small in her palms and handed it to me as I prepared to leave. "What is this?" I asked, smiling as I peeled back the layers of colored paper. "It's a flower I drew for you," she announced, her confidence radiating warmth. "It's a magic flower that holds all the strength of our dreams. You can take it with you, Mom. I believe in you." With tears welling in my eyes, I pulled her close, the weight of burdensome fears melting away in that embrace. "I believe in you too, sweetheart." As I stepped into the clinic, the tumult coursing through me shifted. There was a clarity in my heart, a promise that unfolded with each step, one I would fight for, to weave a tapestry of love through this chaos. The doctor greeted me with soft, engaging eyes. "We have some good news for you," she began, and suddenly, those words unraveled a cocoon of tension. Everything else fell silent as she updated me on my test results, her words darting through confusion and doubt like rays of sunlight piercing the fog. "Your recent treatment has shown significant progress. We have options to explore that could lead you down a path of better health." As I absorbed her words, a ball of joy ignited in my chest. Fighting back the tears, I felt hope cascading through me. With every option presented, my mind flooded back to Clara's drawing, the magic flower of dreams that represented our journey, filling the spaces with possibility and resilience. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice primal and raw, allowing the truth of my journey to wash over me. "Thank you for giving me a chance to keep dreaming." With newfound strength, I stepped back into the world, the air vibrant with connection and possibility. As I embraced the future, I realized something: life wasn't merely about enduring each moment, it was about living them, weaving them into beautiful narratives, and flourishing amid uncertainty. In the weeks that followed, as family bonds strengthened and new dreams were sown, I held fast to Clara's flower, a reminder of our collective fight. Each morning was a promise, each evening a gathering under the skies of our shared hope. As the light of a new dawn broke over the horizon, I sat in our living room, watching Clara and Dave create together once more, the air filled with laughter and the scent of blooming potential. And in that warm, sacred space, it settled in me as I caught Clara's eyes, shining with determination. "Mom, can we plant real flowers in the garden, too?" I nodded, her spirit driving me forward with joyful certainty. "Absolutely. We'll plant a whole garden of magic." And just like that, a voice whispered within me, echoing through my heart a deep, resonating truth: life can be extraordinary, even in the face of uncertainty. Within every struggle lived the seed of hope ready to blossom, reminding me that we were, and always would be, in this journey together, unbroken, unafraid, and alive. With that thought, I took my place beside them, ready to dream once more, letting the warm sunlight stretch above us, and I knew then this was merely the beginning. And with laughter curling around us like vines in a flourishing garden, I understood that in the vast expanses of love, hope, and connection, we would find our way. Because sometimes, the journey back to your heart starts with a single seed planted in the garden of dreams.